People say that buildings shape cities and lives, but behind every project, behind every successful development and a real estate ventures are those successful visionaries who visualize and bring these and their ideas into life. So, everyone, welcome to SJ Talks. I am Adya, and today we have such a visionary and such a leader who has almost 3 decades of experience, not just in India, but also in Dubai and Singapore. He's also the founder of PDMC Consultancies, and he's also worked with large scale projects from healthcare to educational sectors to even commercial and residential products. So, everyone, let's welcome Mr. Manish Tripathi.
Thank you, Adya. Thank you for having me on board today.
Thank
appreciate
you
that.
for sparing your time and coming here all the
Thank you
way.
very much.
Yeah, so I think my first question is you almost have 30 years of experience, right? So, what initially drove you to come towards the real estate field?
So it was a very interesting journey. It was never my first choice. I didn't ask him. I graduated and I went for a trip to Singapore about for 15 days, and having to look at the skyline of Singapore at that point of time. I'm talking about 1990s. Something appealed me, and that holiday trip ended up becoming where I am sitting today. So I thank God for that. I thank the opportunities I had. And after seeing the skylines there, after seeing the kind of works was happening there, something interested me. So I'm a civil engineering background graduate. Graduated in 93, and then subsequently I've done my master's from Singapore as well. And a real estate has its own different verticals, but subsequently I became more interested towards the real estate development itself and moved from engineering towards the development background.
Yes. So, it's just like, you saw something that appealed to you and then you
Oh,
just
yeah.
shifted over there.
Correct. So, just imagine from a smaller city in India, and you go to an international city where vertical high-rise, high-end buildings, just imagine yourself, a fresh graduate from the college when he goes and, find himself in that environment. Any young generation would be very attracted to
Very
it.
fascinated.
And I had an opportunity, either should I continue to be towards a design background, or shall I move towards contracting or real estate? Eventually I chose to grow towards the real estate.
Okay. And because you have 30 years of experience, when you started out, it must have been very different, right? Than what it's compared to now. So what do you think, like, how do you think the things have flown and how do you think this sector will develop in the future as well?
So if I have to compare today real estate from the time when I came in the industry, there's been a significant shift. Back then, we don't used to even have the computers. Computers came, probably it was there, but most likely it came in 97, 98, and where you started to really utilize up there. Imagine, carrying to site with large folder of files and manual drawings and everything. And the shift which I have seen in the last 3 decades is very, very mesmerizing. What I see today, real estate growth across the world. You look at the high-rise buildings like Burj Khalifa, you look at the tallest tower of the world, and something once a dream is a reality today. AI is coming in place, with systematic way of design developments, collaboration in the industry across the world. I mean, today the industries that you can sit here, you can have a design done in US, and project management team sitting in Australia, and the project is happening in India. Wasn't the case then, So it's a major shift I see, and I think this is something is a bright future ahead. It has its own pro and con, but real estate is always a segment which continue to grow as per the demand of the market. So those challenges will be there, but outlook is very bright in future.
So like you said, you've bought ideas that from outside to India, right? So what were those ideas exactly, and how did you try to incorporate the outside elements to the India right now?
When I came back to India after nearly 28 years of working, so I came back in 2021, and I saw the huge gap in the Indian real estate development was a process and a process orientation an understanding of how the entire system should seamlessly flow. And I think this is why you can see a very basic difference of the real estate industry in any developed country like Dubai or Singapore versus the tier 1 cities in India. And those major learning which we had was a process, procedure, cost control, timely delivery, the quality of expectation to the end user and buyer. And any buyer in today's market, whether you call a young generation or just a generation who has managed to reach a certain level of their career, their apprehension is always to receive their apartment or villa on time.
Okay.
And there a lot of working goes in the background. Projects are not just about brick and mortar. It's about the process, procedure, and all. So these were the things which I saw missing. And for the past couple of years, I have been, training developers not only in Hyderabad, across the tier 2, tier 1 cities, and try to review their internal operations mechanism and provide them the efficiency and how to improve. In a way, it also affects and supports the developer because they are then able to improve their P&L, they're able to make the revenue generation, and therefore they are able to deliver better projects in the future.
Yeah. So you told that you train developers, right? So what that process exactly like?
So, for example, I give you a simple example. I would not name the developer, but I looked at his P&L sheets. I looked at his, and they are almost the second largest developer in Kerala.
Okay.
And I spent about last 1 year with them. In almost 12 months, I used to travel once a week to their office. And I started to scrutinize to understand, that why are the projects are not performing to whatever they have envisaged and why the P&Ls are shown low. And therefore looking into their operating mechanism, looking at the resources, looking at how they are structurally operating their projects, not only at the execution point of view, also from the time they secure the land, the feasibility and all. And slowly over the period of time, I changed their entire operating structure. It took me about 9 months. And then we put in the test run. Of course, there were a lot of, revelation from internally because people were used to working of a certain way. They're not willing to change. So therefore, we had to bring people from outside in the system. And by doing so, we improved their PAT, which is profit after tax on the projects, significantly from 14 to 18%.
Okay. Wow.
So the 4% of that delta, which was not seen, it was actually the end result of how we improved the process.
You were training them.
Yeah.
Yes. And like we know that you also work in Dubai and Singapore.
Yeah.
The clients over there. Right now, how is that different from India? Like, what are the differences that you see
So,
the three places?
couple of major difference what you'll see in India and the overseas market. Majority of the developers, like if you look at Dubai or Singapore, although they are family driven, promoter led, but they have a very strong corporate culture.
Okay.
It does not exist in India yet. They're large houses. They're trying to grow as a corporate culture, like if you look at the Godrej, Prestige, DLF and all, they are now large scale corporate culture, and they have taken almost like 20-30 years to evolve. And the very basic difference between Dubai, Singapore and all, which I have seen here in Indian culture, that the culture of working change from company to company, project to project.
Okay.
And that's a very basic difference. A company which has a system, it should flow seamlessly across all the projects, regardless of wherever the projects are happening. This was not the case in Dubai. And we used to spend a lot of time in planning, ensuring that the project takes off when the plannings are in place, approvals are in place, budgets are in place, financial discipline is in place, and therefore you only execute and deliver. And that's why you get the pace of work. Singapore is more towards the modernization. So they have grown beyond this, the planning phase. So they are more towards, everything is in order now. You just keep repeating it. What I today see in India, is something which I would be seeing 10 years ago in Singapore
Okay,
and Dubai.
okay.
So that's a very, but that's the beauty of the real estate development.
Yeah,
The pace of
development
projects
is different.
and the development what you have in India today, it will outshine whatever we are seeing, the other part of the
Yeah.
world at this point of time.
And is managing three of them difficult, or has it taken like a mental toll on you anytime?
So it has been quite challenging for India, I would say.
Okay.
Uh, the very challenging part which we have faced here, especially I faced that when you come from the overseas, a very systematic way of working, and suddenly you have to start working in a system where systems are there but not being followed. Systems are built in to suit
Yeah.
certain narratives. That has been very challenging.
Okay.
And I think I would see a horizon of another 5 to 10 years. I think it will again to be a similar level of
Okay.
international levels.
And like everyone in their own journeys, they grow and then they make mistakes and they learn from them. So what is like one of your professional mistake that you blamed yourself for, but also grew from it?
So there was a incident way back in I would say 1998.
Okay.
So I had already grown. That time I was in Singapore and young blood, and one day I came to office and all the promotions and everything was happening, and for some reason I didn't get what I was expecting.
Okay.
Through my resignation, left, and and I started seeing that no, I will not work anymore. I'll start my business, join hand with somebody, and at that point of time, I understood what is the basic difference between running a business than
Okay.
being an employee. It was a huge mistake financially for me, but I learned something which I could have never learned in any college or
Yeah.
university. And that acumen which I understood running a business, and when you lose money, how it affects you, and how you should be better control of your money, had led me to start working across my project on a money control, financial discipline across the project. So one would see that as a mistake which you would have carried, but it was a learning curve
Learning
for me.
process.
Yeah.
Yes, like you said, losses that you have gotten back, then you learned money control. But sometimes losses are inevitable, right? So did you, like in your experience, like while doing real estate, experience losses, and how did you deal with that?
Look, every in the life is a journey, right? So every day you learn something new. Not necessarily that whatever I have learned in Singapore and Dubai, I can replicate 100% in India. So in our industry, every day is a learning thing. Every day we learn something, and we try to not overpower your decision making from your learning, but you guide and coach. And I think the very basic difference which I have seen, and I try to you know coach my team or the juniors whom I try to promote them to the next level, is that whatever you have learned uh, doesn't mean that the second person who is with you has to go through the same thing. So you have to be very rational when you're looking at this thing, and that's the way you grow. And this is the only way I would see that any of the generation or anyone whom you're trying to empower is the way. And I think that's the way we should be doing it.
And as someone who's been in the industry for so long, what does development management actually mean?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting thing. So this is something, this was 2009 and 10. And up until then, there was only two different kind of management used to be in place. One would be project management, and one would be construction management, very distinct. And then you have the QS services and all. But what we realized, there was no one who takes the ownership on behalf of the client.
Okay.
So either you have a business development team, or you have a feasibility team, or you have the architect, or you have the construction management and the project manager. But there was no one who is taking the ownership on behalf of the client that I am responsible to deliver this project within this time and within this cost.
Okay.
So development management, this is how it formed. And it's a journey which something, I was lucky to be part of it. And something we started creating internally when I was in Dubai in 2009. And this came in when there was if you guys know, there was a downturn in Dubai in
Okay.
2009. And there was a massive, crisis.
Okay.
2009 to 2011. And during this stage, everybody realized that how important it is to have a development management team in the organization.
Okay.
And therefore, this is how I started. I understand. So today, when I'm working for any organization, like today I'm working with Ramki, Ramki Real Estate Firm as the as a director
Okay.
position with them for the technical and operations.
Okay.
And I am responsible for the development management. And I takes up the project right from the feasibility study all the way till delivery. So
Okay.
I am the point of contact in the organization
Okay.
who practically have the responsibility to ensure
Okay.
that the project is designed well, perceived well, developed, delivered, and
Okay.
handed over. So the entire
Okay.
process is on the central level.
Okay.
So this is something still many of the organization doesn't have.
Okay.
If you look at broadly, a lot of organizations are still working in an old traditional way. But if you go to Dubai, you go to Singapore, you go to UK, US, and all, development management is a very common since I started
Okay.
since 2009.
Okay. So this is like, you're acting like a channel to
Yes.
transmit content and information. And another thing is, people in real estate usually say that location is very important when you're doing projects or business. Do you think it still stands true, or are there other factors that are equally important because the others are not addressed that much, or we don't know about them?
So it's a very interesting thing. Many of the people have asked me this question. I always ask everyone one thing. So today, if you are living in Trump Towers,
Okay.
do you have to tell anybody where the location of Trump Tower is?
No.
Right? Today, if you are living in Jubilee Hills, do you have to tell anyone where you are living?
Yeah.
Location is everything.
Okay.
Location is important because that gives you a glorification of where you stay.
Okay.
You understand? And everyone wants to. So, home today is an achievement for everyone, right? If you look at your parents, I look at my parents, or even for yourself. Today, you at one point of time you want to have your own home, right? And therefore location will always be important for you. Could be relevance to where your children is going to study or where your parents are going to study. Come to real estate developer, it is a blend of supply demand change.
Okay.
What today is seen as an odd location tomorrow could be a growth corridor, right? So visionary real estate developers, they always know the way market trend is moving, the way they know where the housing societies will have a demand or the growth corridor of the school, colleges, infrastructure development. And this is where they invest, and this is where they acquire land. This is how we look at the market. So it's a very series of very systematic way of approaching it. It's not something like a fluke. You just decide to do a project here and you do that. It goes a lot of working behind it before you launch a product. So just give you a simple example. Call any top developer. What you see a physical launch, it takes at least 2 years before the planning towards it.
Okay.
Land aggregation, business study, what kind of a product mix will come, market study, sales volume, and then look at kind of a design will show. The hundreds of things goes on background. Then you see a physical launch of the project happens.
So, like you said, that as a developer, you'll have an idea of which land is going to, go more in demand, or which area is going to grow. So, what are the factors that, go into realizing that this area is going to be growing in the future?
So we always look at the trend of development. Like for example, if you look at the ORR developed, it was built some 10 years ago. And this has a master planning based of it. There's a population index, growth corridors, has the development decision making by local municipal office, and they look at which directions they will continue to have the industry's growth, right? So we as a real estate developer also follow the similar kind of a trend, but in a different manner. Depending on kind of development you do, like Ramki, we are predominantly do a lot of group housing development, and we are very community focused developer.
Okay.
We always believe in bringing a sustainable housing, affordable housing, and when we say affordable, is it's more like all the working class should have a home, and they should have a community. So we always look into a growth corridor where the population has a demand, and this is where we look at. And I think most of the developer, if you see, they do the similar kind of work.
Okay. Okay. And you're also, the founder of PDMC Consultants, right? So what exactly inspired you to make it, and how has that journey been?
So it was 2017-18. I was in Dubai then, and I had been working in the senior, very senior position for many years with a real estate developer. And after a certain point of time, it became very monotonous, just doing the same thing and all. And I always had an appetite of doing something new. And this was the time where I stepped out from a routine journey of 8 to 5 office hour, and I started exploring. There was a huge demand of development management consulting. I had a lot of known network. They had the land bank, they had the appetite, but they didn't want to go and hire a large scale PMC or construction management firm. So I started, this is how I started,
Okay.
PDMC. And the PDMC was also where I used to provide a lot of training, coaching, development and all. And it was the idea seed in the mind, and it worked well. It was quite good up there, and then the COVID came in, and 2021 I came in here. So I started continue the same thing up until recent years, where I work with the Ramki. But it has been a great great journey with PDMC, and very well known development management firm as well.
So another very important factor that is coming right now is sustainability, and taking care of the environment, because it's becoming really conscious and important. So but sometimes it's also very cost oriented, you'll have to spend a lot on it, right? So how is real estate planning to bring sustainability as a factor, but without having much expenses or cutting down costs?
So I think there's major disconnect. People always see sustainability as a cost. Actually, it is not.
Okay.
And sustainability is not something you start to think after you have done your design or you have started the project. Obviously, then it will be a cost. But if your project is well designed, and if you have selected your primary equipments on the project, which are the capex item. For example, if you look at lifts, for example, in the high-rise building, if you look at the chillers who supplies the water, you have a water treatment plants and all. So these items, eventually have the carbon footprint on the projects. A well-designed, well-lit housing, and having to select the right product which generates the least amount of carbon footprint is a very lowest cost when you look at the long term.
Okay.
And eventually, if you look today with the urbanization, almost every city you're losing out with the green. If 5-acre plot you're doing a development, and if you're only providing 1 acre of green space in it, although you are replacing, but you are not replicating to what is lost, right?
Yes.
So therefore, it's a mindset change.
Okay.
And I think majority of the developer, I'm very proud, in Ramki, the founder of the group has a very strong mandate for the team.
Okay.
I mean, we heavily invest in our sustainable design. We make sure that, all our designs are the qualified to that, and we provide back to the community.
Okay.
So idea of the real estate development is not about just building houses. idea is also what do you give back to the community, so that is very important for us.
Okay, and along with sustainability, technology and AI is also something that's highly growing and it's, high demand, right? So how do you incorporate, components of AI technology to boost your own sector?
So, I mean, AI you see in the last 3 years is rapidly growing. Uh, Although if I look at the AI, it has already been in place, but real estate is recently started seeing in the last 3 years. And slowly we are now also integrating a lot of our operational aspect of it into the AI. But so not only just while you are planning, designing and all. Like for example, BIM is integrated. So BIM is also AI platform which we are using.
Okay.
It helps us while in the design, but it also help us during the operation of the building.
Okay.
So you have all the documents on a single platform. You can visualize, you can maintain the building and all. So these are the things which already industry has started. We are doing it, and subsequently we also now trying to look at what else can we do in terms of the reducing the what we call the loss of the cost which you invest on the mechanized way, which can be done on the algorithm way.
Okay.
And this data which also helps us to when we are launching a new project, when we are studying something new, how we can utilize it. So we are well in place and we are doing it now.
Okay. And we see everything is very fluid. In previous sectors it changed a lot. Now they're very different to what they were before. So how do you think the real estate sector will change in the future years?
So if you look at the real estate today, previously, house was the aspiration. Today, home is a luxury.
Yeah.
That's a very basic change has come.
Yeah.
Young generation is well traveled. If I look at the millennials, I look at the Gen Zs, they love to travel. They they want to know the world, right? And I think these kind of the experience they are carrying, they would like to also see in the real estate here.
Yeah.
And if you just look very not too far, if you just look at the project launched in 2010-12 and you look at the projects which are launching, there's a huge difference. And I think it's more becoming towards the requirement of the young population, where their demand, their requirements are far different than the previous. So if you just look at the projects which is done before the COVID, there was no co-working space design.
Okay.
Now you look at all the new development.
Yeah.
You can work from home.
Yeah.
There's a co-working spaces designed in the community. Yeah. The community has a lot more greener areas.
Yeah.
So once you're in the society, you can utilize every single aspect of it. These were not the place earlier on.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And I think this will continue to evolve. Industry has a pattern. It changes every 5 years, depending on the need, because every 5 years, new wealth generation stream comes in.
Yeah.
Hyderabad has seen that. Today, Hyderabad is well driven by the IT sector, medical sector. So I think this will continue. So every 5 to 7 years, it will be keep evolving.
Okay. And risk management is also something that is very important in different sectors. Like in corporate, you make a plan of everything that the what ifs and everything. And I think it's very important to see how it's going to flow and think of the worst case scenarios. So how important is risk management in your sector, and how is it usually done, or how is the process taken?
So this is something I have not seen in India so far.
Okay.
And this is something we used to do as a development managers. Very initial stage of the project formation, so we used to call project initiation plan, PIP, and the PIP had a very large form of volume of document, which is the risk register. And risk register is something we used to maintain.
Okay.
Something I would like to see in India happening. And now with the young generation, AI is coming in place. These are not something which you really need to spend a lot of time, but it does helps you understanding of the the entire P&L sheet. And once you identify your red flag zones, it could be authority related, it could be land issues, it could be your cost of construction, because the way you see the market is volatile. The overall cost of construction has gone up by 30%.
Okay.
Just less than 9 months.
Okay.
Which if sometimes these things you are not able to foresee. But if this is part of your risk register, then you should be able to identify a lot of risks and you can mitigate it.
Okay. Yeah, basically another question is that every organization focuses on a long-term growth and long-term development to make sure that that's stable and well known like in the future. So what do you think are some measures that people ensure to make sure that they're over there for a long term, and what do you think are those mistakes that people make in the base level that prevents this from happening?
So two things is very important. And I'll give a simple example, right? If you have a national level player who launches a project, and if you have someone next to him, a local developer launching the project, most of the time the inclination of any buyer will be towards the national level. For a simple reason, because they have that, assurance that the project will be delivered. And this is something is very important. Any credible developer has to ensure that he has a track record of delivering the projects. And as long as he maintains that, this is what will bring a reputation for him, a long track. And this is what will allow him to grow year on year basis in the market. And that growth pattern is seen across India. If you look at any company who is today sustainable after 50 years in business, for say like Prestige, you look at Ramkey Group, you look at, Godrej, they all know. Ramkey today, if anybody buys, they know that the project will be delivered.
Okay.
And, delays are generally, is very pragmatic. Individual may have a very different way of looking at it, but delays are not something intentional done by the developer. Sometimes they are things beyond his hand, but eventually what matters that is he able to deliver.
Okay.
And if the projects are delivered, he will have that reputation and therefore he'll continue to grow in the market.
Okay.
And that's the name building is what any real estate developer has to follow.
Okay, and like you said, that a name or a brand is very important so that people can, trust them. So, how long do you think it usually takes a brand to develop? Because everyone starts from a starting point where they're not that well known. Even your journey, let's say. So, how was it like to, build a brand?
So, generally, you see, any project when you launch, a delivery is minimum 36 to 48 months. And a developer who doesn't have a track record of at least 10 years and above, on a regular basis,
Okay.
Delivering year on year basis after his launch, then he has not built a track record,
Okay.
So I would not see anyone minimum of 15 to 20 years before you really a brand in the market.
Okay.
There is a misunderstanding in the market. People think that by launching, creating those, marketing buzz in the market, I have created a brand name. I think the young generation and the young buyer market is very different. They only believe in delivery, and this is what I see. You can see that in Hyderabad, for example, the absorption rate of a completed project is 99%.
What is the absorption rate?
So, like buyers, the project is ready, people are willing to buy, and therefore the product are sold. Versus the launches under construction is only 60%.
Okay.
So that tells you that people are willing to buy only completed project, right?
Okay.
So that gives you the track record as well.
So, what advice would you give to those people who are planning to come into this sector of work? And, what skills should they have?
You got to know the basics, willing to take the risk, have a financial discipline, very important.
Okay.
Once you have those things, then I think then you are able to, grow in the business.
Okay. And what do you think are like those points or like the red flags that the investors are supposed to make sure of or look into before committing to a particular project?
A lot of investors have the short sight. They don't do research well. They underestimate the market location, and they don't do the data research.
Okay.
And majority of the time I have seen, they have a hasty decision. I'm talking about the young investors who have just acquired a wealth and they're investing into it. and they're just expecting to have a very fast rotation of the money. Real estate is a long-term game.
Okay.
You should have a patience to take the high and lows of the market. You should do, a database research. Don't just hear and react to it.
Okay.
I have invested in so and so project because you're my friend, so I also invest. Should not be the case.
Okay.
You should have a trust yourself because each has a different, appetite for investment. Each has a different way of executing this. You should know how to enter. You should know how to exit it out,
Okay.
and willing to take the negative impact as well.
Okay.
So that is something very important because investment is not something you can always make money.
Mm-hmm.
There are occasions that you can lose money. Like for example, if you look at Gurgaon, 2012, there was a market crash.
Okay.
Majority of the people gone out of the business. But those who hold on to their properties or land bank, they are multi-millionaire today.
Okay.
So they had that vision to hold on to it. There were no panic sell and all. They made money. So similar kind of a thing. So real estate always have a cycle which goes through 5 years of belly up and down. And if you are able to visualize that and you know at what time you are entering into investment, then you are good.
Okay. And everyone has this one project that is special to them, or their favorite project. Or so, what is, from all the work that you have done, because you have so much experience, what is one project that stood out to you? Like, this is like my creation or my work.
Many.
Obviously.
It's like, so there's one project which actually shaped my career where I am sitting today,
Okay.
and is very close to my heart. It's, One Raffles Link Singapore
Okay.
and CityLink Mall. It's a project, even till today, I have handed over the project in year 2000. Till today, I'm in touch with the entire development team and all. They still, it's kind of a, icon I built. And, across the world, first underground shopping mall of the Southeast Asia.
Okay.
So it's kind of, achieved. Similarly, I have many other projects, but this is something,
That close to the heart.
close to the heart. And one in Dubai, which is City Walk development.
Okay.
Yeah. It's two development.
So, like, you've built so many, and so many of them are close to your heart. What is that one driving thing that keeps you going?
So I've always taken a project as my own.
Okay.
And this is what had differentiate me from the others. When I have built this project right from design to, delivery. And at no point of time, I have shifted the responsibility on anyone.
Okay.
So if a good thing is happening, it's my team. If anything has gone bad, I stood up, took the responsibility, sorted out, and moved on. So it's very important, especially for, I see a lot of the time. We should not look into, blaming or pointing finger. When you are doing a development, real estate development, you have so many, it's complete human industry. You will have so many different talent. You will have so many different level of experience. It's all about the leadership, how you hold it, how you, take it across the line. So that is a passion. And unless you are passionate about what you're doing,
Yeah.
you'll never be able to perform. So that's something I have been always maintained, and God is kind. He has always given me that leadership opportunity, able to do that.
We can clearly see how passionate you are about your work.
Thank you.
And we can say that you are in a successful position right now, right? So what is your exact definition of success, and what do you think it means, like being in the position you are right now?
So, something which I define as success is when you leave a legacy behind.
Okay.
Success is not about yourself. It's the kind of team you create, the kind of relationship you carry. And even whether you're in the organization and all, is still, people reach out to you. And that memories you carry, So success to me, when I started my career, that I have built this building and I have done that. that perception changed where I'm sitting today.
Okay.
For me, it's more of a people, I grow the organization, I see my juniors growing up, able to provide them my, experience for them to be successful. So I feel very happy when I see any of my junior goes to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's a success to
Yeah.
me. And that's what I enjoy.
Like you said, it's a journey and it's about everything that you built. Was there a moment like in your life when you realized that I made it?
It's never the day it is, then I'm out of the business.
Okay. That's actually so beautiful.
But it's so nice, when you complete a project and when you all stand in front of the project to take a photograph, that we have completed, and you look back that 3 to 4 years what we have been through together, high and lows, fights and discussions and everything.
Yeah.
But eventually it's done. So that's a very different feel altogether.
So, like you said, that the day you say you made it is the day you stop. So, what are your future plans? Or is that going to be like a spoiler?
For me, this is what I am, this is what I breathe. I breathe real estate, I breathe development management. Until I continue to be able to walk myself, this is what I'll continue to do.
So, and like for the final question, many people, they feel very suffocated when they can't manage both work and personal life, and sometimes they don't have a clue how to do it. So, was it easy for you managing both work and personal life, or?
So I think I've seen my parent generation, I have seen mine, and I'm seeing my children as well, who are, a few guys' age. And within my family, my son is millennial, my daughter is, 21 years old. And I constantly hear this, work-life balance. Actually, it's all depend on individual, very much. And, where the balance go disproportionate, where your ambitions are beyond your, reach, and your constant drive is there, and you keep your family on the stake to achieve ambition.
Okay.
And this is where the disbalance comes in. You got to know your threshold level.
Okay.
You got to know that end of the day, in your life, there's only one thing matters: your family. Today, even if you're working, it's only for yourself and your family.
Okay.
So you need to balance her. Nobody can balance for you.
Yes.
Neither your boss can balance for you, neither your project or your work can balance for you. You have to know. You got to know when you have to stop. You have to know what's your priority. You need to know how to manage it all.
Yes. And sorry, but as my last final
No,
question,
go for
what
it.
is your life motto?
My life motto is that, it was very interesting. About 3 months ago, one of the young talented architect who has done the, masters from IIT, he was working with us. And one fine day he just came to my office. Rohit was his name. And he was leaving us. And he brought me a gift. It was written on the cool boss. And he was like, he wrote a memo that eventually when I come to your position, I want to be you.
Okay.
And that's something, it was the biggest achievement. Neither a paycheck could have done for me or, a promotion could have done for me, So that is something I want to continue to do. That tomorrow, even 30 years from now, 40 years from now, all the young generation still remember me and saying that Manish sir was my, he was our coach, he was the mentor.
Yes. It was an extreme pleasure talking to you, sir.
Thank you
I had
so
lots
much.
of fun. So that's it. You guys saw the podcast, right? And for more such podcasts, subscribe, like, and share SJ Talks. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and thank you for having me.
It was an extreme
Appreciate it.
pleasure
Thank you
talking to you,
so much.
sir.